I just got back from a 3-month trip to Italy and Greece, and I'm gonna tell you about some of those experiences here. But I also was inspired to take what I learned there, and I learned a lot about myself. But I also learned about the Greek people, and I learned about some of the mentality that they have there, and that may be prevalent in part of the world. And it inspired me to make this video called "Don't Give In to Victim Energy," or "Don't Be a Victim." And it's a critical principle of what we're doing here at Light Circle. And so let's launch right into that. I'll just tell you in the beginning here that as I was in Greece, what I realized is that the Greek people, by and large, of course, not all of them, but I just noticed a pattern being there for so long. And some of my best friends and family are part of the Greek culture. So I say this out of love, but they're basically addicted to drama and negativity, or being a victim. So it kind of weaves in. And they're all complaining about how much money they make or don't make. Unfortunately, at least a lot of people were complaining. And they look at me and they go, "Yeah, well, you have all that opportunity," but they don't see right there in front of them is one of the most beautiful countries in the world. In fact, there's more coastline in the country of Greece than there is in all of Africa. Did you know that? Like, that's amazing to me because of all the islands. And you're never more than an hour away from a mountain or an hour away from a beach in Greece. It's just an amazing place. And it's beautiful, and the food is incredible, and the people are great. But they are addicted to some of this negative energy. And I don't go well with negative energy. It just doesn't fit my personality. I've worked my whole life to try to stay in the positive mind frame, because I think you get so much more out of life with a positive mind frame. You attract opportunities. You attract other people that are better to serve you in your life, and that support you, and you can support them. And life is just better when things are happy and positive rather than when things are doom and gloom. And I found that a lot over there. But it's an addiction, and we all maybe have addictions to something. The addiction in that culture is drama, right? We know the Greek tragedies and the dramas all came from ancient Greece. And so I think that's just kind of been bred into their culture. I don't know scientifically, but when people would say, "Oh, I just don't have any opportunity here," I would just look at them and give them an opportunity. And when I handed them an opportunity, they slapped it away. I gave 4 opportunities when I was in that country, and all 4 people slapped it away. See, they don't want to change their situation. They want to wallow in their situation. Do you know anybody like that? Maybe it's in this culture too. I don't know. Let's talk about it. First of all, we have to understand what victim energy is. So it's essentially a mindset. And so what happens is you get this feeling of being powerless. So instead of taking charge, sometimes it's just easier to say, well, I'm going to blame somebody else, and I'm just going to be the victim in my own life or in somebody else's life, right? It's always somebody else's fault. So you're not taking that personal responsibility. When you have that state of mind, it can hinder your growth, right? Because you're not looking for opportunities to work out of your growth. You're kind of stuck in that growth. You're kind of stuck in those bad relationships. It can, you might even get depressed, right? Because you start to let these feelings take over. And it often arises from challenging life circumstances. But what most people don't realize is that even if you have challenging life circumstances, because we all do, you still have the power to choose your own response, right? You can respond negatively, you can respond positively, and of course, you don't have to respond at all. And so those are some of the causes and the understanding of it. Now, let's get into some of the consequences of it. Well, if you are stuck in this negativity, it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It becomes a cycle, right? You think a negative thought, something negative happens to you, and you go, "See, that's what I thought would happen. See, I knew I can never do this. I can never get it right. I always make these mistakes," right? Never and always. Really rough words to use with yourself, right? And so that can lead to a disempowered state of mind or a state of being. It also disempowers you because it prevents you from taking responsibility. You've got to take responsibility for your life, for your actions, your decisions. I say that every decision in life has maintenance and consequences. So you might as well make the right decisions or the decisions for yourself, because you're the one that's going to have to live with those maintenance and consequences. And victim energy is also really rough on relationships, right? If you're constantly blaming the other person, if you're not taking responsibility, if you're blaming the system, if you're blaming the government, you're blaming your boss, you're blaming the waiter, right? You're just shifting blame, and you're not learning how to deal with those situations, because there's other people that can deal with those situations, end up being empowered with those situations, right? And when you lack accountability because you shift that blame, you don't build the muscle to take your own responsibility. You've got to start taking responsibility for your life. So how do you break free from the victim energy? Well, first of all, you got to accept it. Look, there's stuff that goes wrong in life. We all have problems. We all have to learn how to deal with them. And the quicker you deal with them, the better, usually, right? And so acceptance is the first step of change. And it's the first step of recognizing that you have a problem, you have an issue, you have something that you can improve on. And so then you have to kind of step into your own power and you say, you know what? I have the power to change my life, to shape my life, even when things are lousy, even when there's a problem, even when there's adversity. You have the power. Don't give up your power. You know what I always say, never give up your power in your health, your wealth, or your time. Why do I say that? Because if you take ownership of that power, if you take ownership of your actions, your emotions, your choices, then you can create the consequences that are on the other side. Yeah, they may not always be perfect consequences, but at least they're your choices. They're your ownership of that mentality, right? So how do you go forward from shifting into that, stepping into your power? How do you do that? You cultivate empowering beliefs. Is you have to step into those empowering beliefs, and you've got to challenge those beliefs. And you've got to replace them with very empowering beliefs, right? And so you can look at somebody that's overweight, for example, right? And sometimes they start smoking and they lose weight. Well, it's not because they started smoking, it's because they replaced the one habit with a different habit. I'm not sure if it's a better habit. The opposite is true too, is people stop smoking and they gain weight. Well, that's not a habit you want to replace it with. You want to replace it with an empowering habit. Maybe you chew gum and that doesn't put on weight. You bite your cheek off or something, but you want to create an empowering habit. Maybe you decide that you're not going to smoke anymore and you're going to go to the gym, or you're going to do 10 push-ups every time you want to have a cigarette. That's an empowering replacement for a bad habit. So start thinking about what could be the impossible or the possible replacement of that bad habit. Start asking yourself that question, because in that question, you're going to find your own answer. We all have strengths, right? So we got to start focusing on those strengths, right? We've been through difficult situations in our lives. Why don't we just focus on how we got out of those difficult situations and learn from that and realize that we have that incredible resilience to get out of a lousy situation, to empower ourselves, to quit being a victim? Why don't we just do that? Wouldn't that be better? Believe that you can do this. Anybody can do it, right? There are people like Oprah Winfrey, who grew up in squalor and was raped at an early age, and that she became one of the richest women in the world, one of the most successful. It's not about being rich, but maybe successful. Maybe you define rich as successful. I don't know. But she seems to have a pretty good life, right? But she started out worse than probably you and I did. So she empowered herself, right? She figured out there was a way to make positive change. Believe in yourself, believe in the ability, because you can do this. Now you've got to start shifting your perspectives. You shift your mindset. You start to practice gratitude. We wake up every morning and I practice gratitude, right? I teach people how to do this. All you've got to do is what am I grateful for? Ask that question and then appreciate it. I look out the window and I go, gosh, it's such a beautiful place to live here, right? Gosh, I just love the peace and quiet here. Gosh, I love to be able to be on my own. Or if I'm in Greece, I say, wow, I get to wake up and look at this beautiful water, go take a swim in this beautiful ocean. Yeah, there's government I could focus on. There's a lack of opportunity that I may want to focus on if I'm a Greek person. There's lots of bad things you could focus on. You could flip on the news or scroll your phone, but choose to take a positive attitude. Choose to take an attitude of gratitude and put the positives in your life. Start focusing on those. What you focus on expands. And as you focus on some of those things, you attract more of them in your life, right? We're like an antenna. If we're broadcasting out positive vibes and waves, we're going to get back positive vibes and waves. We've just got to tune into them. They're all there. They're all around us. So practicing that gratitude is a really great skill to be able to practice daily, even if it's just for a minute or two, just to start appreciating all the things around you. Wow, my hand. It's such a cool thing. I can squeeze things. I can grab things. I can feel things. Just appreciate. And then reframe those challenges that you have as opportunities for growth and learning, because two people can see a car accident, right? In the middle of the road. And the police can interview one of them and they go, yeah, that person ran the red light. And they'll interview the other one and say, no, he didn't run the red light. He stopped. The other person was speeding. Two people saw the same exact thing and have two totally different experiences. What does that tell you? That tells you that there's more than one way to look at things, right? So reframe the challenges as opportunities, but then seek solutions rather than dwelling on the problem, right? That's the issue, is most people dwell on the problem, spend about 20% of the time or less, maybe 5%, and then spend the other 80 to 95% of the time on the solution. Because if you start thinking about the solution, you come up with tons of them. Maybe some are crazy, but you come up with tons of them, and one of them might be the right solution. And it also might be easy. If you spend time on the problem, you just keep getting more of that problem. All right. You've got to realize, and I mentioned this earlier, that you've got to take responsibility for your actions. And so if you have an emotion, if you have a reaction, it's yours, right? If you take responsibility for it, now you can work your way out of it because you're owning it, right? Stop blaming others. Get away from the blaming of the others, because you've got to focus on those solutions, not the problems. Learn from the setbacks that you have and use those setbacks as like little stepping stones, because every time you get something right, you get a little hit of dopamine. Like, oh, remember that did that a couple years ago? That wasn't as big a problem as I thought. And I solved my problem and I worked my way out of it real easy. That's a little hit of dopamine in your brain. And you start to realize, hey, problems are opportunities for improvement, right? And you've done it before. You might as well just do it again. That's a key situation. And then what you have to do is, now going forward, you've got to build resilience. And what does that mean? Well, one of the best ways to build resilience is to surround yourself with supportive and positive influences. Your tribe attracts your vibe. So have the people around you being supportive of what you're doing, right? Understanding you, not tearing you down. You ever want to start a business and they go, oh, that's been done before, it'll never work, right? We wouldn't have the light bulb, and we wouldn't have electric cars, and we wouldn't have the iPhone if everybody just said it wouldn't work. I mean, how many people told Steve Jobs, nobody's going to listen to music and talk on the phone on this little handheld device? It's impossible. But he thought it was possible. So don't listen to the negative people. Surround yourself with positive people that lift you up. Really critical. Seek help when you need help, by the way, right? We can't do it all alone, right? And if you get into a habit of always seeking help, that's probably too much. You've got to learn to take action on your own problems. Take responsibility for your own problems. Don't always seek help, but sometimes you're going to need help. And I believe that there's a time that you need help. But you know what? Don't start relying on that help. Then you get to the point where you can't make any decisions on your own, right? But get some mentoring, get some support, get some therapy if you need it. But just don't rely on it for the rest of your life, because we're pretty strong people. We don't need to have mental help in everything that we do in our lives, right? You got to take some responsibility by yourself. And you know, I always talk about one thing that we need to do, and that's to embrace a growth mindset. And it's embracing a positive mindset too. It's like, there's a lot of things that happen in life. There's a lot of things that we could tune on. We're bombarded by negative energy, right? We're bombarded by bad news and bad stories and, you know, corruption. And like, we could focus on the accident that just happened. There's tons of things. And those are much more interesting for our brains than the pleasant things. So our brains are obviously more attuned to seeing them. And so, wow, the car accident that somebody's going to show us on TV, the airplane crash, or the stock market crash, right? These are negative things that they use to sell ads. Shut all that stuff off, right? That's not positive. Try to put yourself in a situation where it's positive, right? And then you're going to think positively. You're going to think about opportunities, right? And so that growth mindset you start to adopt, it helps you to embrace challenges, and it helps you value continuous learning, because continuous learning is really critical to you maintaining that mindset. If you're always growing, your brain starts to get addicted to growth. It's like, okay, what can I learn now? What can I do now to make this better, right? And the last one I believe is really critical, and that's to believe in your ability to create positive change. You can do it. Even the most depressed people in the world can get out of depression. They can also choose the opposite, to end their life or do something stupid or just wallow in it, right? You don't have to be that person. Even the most depressed person can rewire your own brain with your own chemicals. You don't need a drug. You don't need a pill. You can rewire your brain. Your brain has all the chemicals that you should possibly want right in here. And it's just driven by your thoughts. And believe that you have the thoughts to create that positive change. You do. So as we come to the end here, what I want to say is don't be the victim. Take charge of your life and embrace that personal responsibility that's there. And remember, you have the power to build a habit, to be positive, to build a habit for growth. You have the power to make the change that lies within you. Keep shining brightly. See you next time. Hey, it's Mark Yegge, founder of Light Circle. And if you want to be productive in your life, you've got to get a hold of my daily productivity planner. Now, it's not this whole book. It's just one of the sheets from this book. The whole book is awesome, but just the sheet is really the foundation of what we do. And it's how I get tons and tons of stuff done every week, including writing books and making videos and running hedge funds and all the other stuff that I do. You've got to get this daily productivity planner if you want to massively improve your success. So click on the link below or somewhere on this page, download the thing for free, you put in your email address, we'll send you the link, and then you can start filling it out right away. By the way, after you do it, I give you a little video on how to fill it out because it's got all these really cool tools on it that are really going to massively help you with your productivity. See you on the inside.